The Pebble Creek Golf Club's annual championship was in full swing when Tom Williams noticed something wrong with the man walking across the 18th fairway. It wasn't his golf attire or his lack of clubs, it was the way he moved, the way he scanned the crowd, the way his jacket hung heavy on one side. Tom had spent 8 years reading terrain and 12 years reading people, and every instinct earned through Marine Corps sniper training was screaming danger. When the first shots rang out across the manicured greens, Tom dropped his lawnmower and reached for something that revealed why his hands were so steady when he cut grass, and why he'd positioned himself with perfect sight lines to the entire course. Every story you're about to hear was earned, not given. This one belongs to Tom Williams, a man whose expertise was earned through 12 years as a Marine Corps sniper, where reading terrain meant survival, and where precision was measured in lives saved rather than strokes shaved. Welcome to Earned Stories. Before we share this tale of earned vigilance and continued protection, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from today? And if you believe stories like this deserve recognition, hit that subscribe button, because every story we tell here was earned through dedication, sacrifice, and the understanding that some skills never stop serving others. Pebble Creek Golf Club was the crown jewel of Millbrook County, an 18-hole championship course that had hosted state tournaments, corporate events, and the kind of golf that separated weekend warriors from serious players. For 8 years, Tom Williams had been the man who made it all possible, maintaining 150 acres of pristine playing surface with the kind of precision that earned respect from golfers who understood the difference between good and perfect. Tom had earned his reputation through consistency that bordered on the supernatural. Every green reading true, every fairway cut to exact specifications, every hazard positioned with mathematical precision that made the course both challenging and fair. Members knew they could count on conditions that would test their skills without punishing them for the course's shortcomings. "Tom's got the magic touch," was what members told newcomers. "Man can read grass like sheet music, and somehow always knows exactly where to position the pin placements to make the hole fair but challenging." What they didn't know was that Tom's magic touch had been earned through 12 years as a Marine Corps sniper, where reading terrain meant the difference between successful overwatch operations and catastrophic failure. Every elevation change, every wind pattern, every sightline on Pebble Creek had been analyzed with the same systematic precision Tom had once used to protect his fellow Marines from positions that required him to see everything while remaining invisible. Tom's daily routine reflected habits most people wouldn't recognize. He arrived at 4:30 a.m., not just to beat the heat, but to conduct what he privately called a security assessment, checking for anything unusual, monitoring access points, noting changes in patterns that might indicate problems developing. His equipment shed was organized with military precision, but what looked like standard groundskeeping tools served dual purposes. The rangefinder he used to measure distances for mowing patterns could calculate exact yardages for other purposes. The radio he carried to communicate with maintenance staff was programmed with emergency frequencies most groundskeepers wouldn't need. During tournaments, Tom's positioning wasn't random. He maintained visual contact with all high-traffic areas while staying far enough away to avoid interfering with play. His routes were planned to provide maximum coverage of the course while maintaining rapid response capabilities to any area where problems might develop. "Tom sees everything that happens on this course," was how club manager Patricia Rodriguez described him to new staff members. "Customer acting strange, equipment problem developing, weather changing before it shows up on radar. Tom notices before anyone else." What Patricia attributed to professional dedication was actually tactical surveillance skills earned through sniper training, where gathering intelligence and maintaining overwatch were as important as marksmanship. Tom Williams hadn't always been a golf course groundskeeper. The transition from Marine Corps sniper to turf management wasn't a career path most people would understand. But Tom understood something civilian life rarely teaches. Excellence isn't about recognition. It's about applying the highest standards to whatever mission you're given. After 12 years in the Marines, Tom had earned his discharge through deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan that tested everything he thought he knew about patience, precision, and protecting others. 2 tours, 89 confirmed overwatch saves, and countless sleepless nights had taught him that some skills become part of who you are. They don't disappear when you change careers. When Tom first applied for the groundskeeper position 8 years ago, the hiring committee wondered if a former Marine could handle the detailed, patient work that golf course maintenance required. What they didn't understand was that Tom had already mastered the ultimate exercise in patience patience and precision, maintaining perfect readiness for hours or days until the moment when everything depended on executing flawlessly. Tom chose groundskeeping deliberately. It wasn't about needing employment. His military pension and disability compensation covered his basic needs. It was about finding work that allowed him to apply skills earned through the highest stakes possible while serving people who appreciated excellence even if they didn't know its source. The golf course provided the perfect environment for Tom's particular expertise. The elevated positions required for mowing and maintenance gave him natural overwatch positions. The need to understand wind patterns, terrain features, and environmental conditions translated directly from sniper training. Most importantly, the work allowed him to create safe spaces where people could enjoy themselves without knowing they were being protected. During slow periods, Tom would often be found reading, not golf course trade magazines, but tactical journals, threat assessment reports, and security publications that had nothing to do with turf management. Habits of continuous learning earned through a military career where staying current with threats meant staying alive. Tom's probably the most educated groundskeeper in the state, was how head pro Mike Chen described him. Man reads everything, knows about security, weather, engineering, could probably run the whole operation if he had to. What Mike attributed to intellectual curiosity was actually professional discipline earned through military training where understanding all aspects of your operational environment was essential for mission success. Tom's approach to course maintenance reflected tactical thinking that most people wouldn't recognize. His mowing patterns provided optimal sight lines while maintaining the aesthetic beauty golfers expected. His equipment placement ensured rapid response to any area of the course. His seasonal planning accounted for variables that went beyond turf health to include security considerations and emergency access. Saturday, September 14th, 7:30 a.m. The Pebble Creek Golf Club's annual championship was the biggest event of the year, a two-day tournament that drew 144 golfers from across the region, plus family members, friends, and spectators, who turned the normally quiet course into a busy community gathering. Tom arrived at his usual 4:30 a.m. to ensure the course was tournament ready. Every green had been cut to exact specifications, every fairway marked with precise yardages, every hazard maintained at championship standards. But Tom's preparation went beyond what tournament officials would inspect. His security assessment had noted several factors that required extra attention: larger than normal crowd, multiple access points being used simultaneously, and the presence of people who weren't regular club members. Not necessarily problems, but variables that changed the normal patterns Tom had learned to monitor. By 8 a.m., the tournament was in full swing. Tom positioned himself on the maintenance road that ran parallel to the 18th fairway, close enough to respond quickly to any maintenance issues, far enough away to avoid interfering with play. From this position, he could observe the entire finishing area while maintaining radio contact with other staff members. The 18th hole at Pebble Creek was a risk-reward par 5 that required players to make strategic decisions about how aggressively to attack the pin. A large green complex was surrounded by spectator areas where family members and friends gathered to watch golfers finish their rounds. On championship day, this area typically held 40 to 50 people during peak playing times. At 11:47 a.m., Tom noticed something that triggered his threat assessment protocols. A man in dark clothing was walking across the fairway, moving toward the spectator area around the 18th green. His movement patterns were wrong, too purposeful for a casual spectator, too direct for someone looking for a bathroom or concession stand. Tom's sniper training had taught him to read human behavior patterns, and everything about this individual suggested planning rather than spontaneous action. The way he scanned the crowd, the way he checked his watch, the way his jacket hung heavy on one side, details that would mean nothing to most people but spoke volumes to someone trained in threat recognition. Tom reached for his radio to alert security, but before he could key the microphone, the situation escalated beyond communication protocols. At 11:52 a.m., the man in dark clothing drew a handgun and fired 2 shots into the air. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. Screaming, panic, people running in all directions or freezing in place with terror that paralyzed rational thought. Tom's response was instantaneous and revealed training that had nothing to do with golf course maintenance. While spectators panicked, Tom was already moving with the controlled urgency of someone whose reactions had been earned through situations where hesitation meant people died. Tom's tactical assessment took less than 10 seconds. Single shooter, handgun, approximately 70 yards from his position. Civilian crowd providing both cover and complications. The shooter was using intimidation tactics rather than attempting maximum casualties, which suggested either limited training or specific objectives beyond mass violence. Tom reached his maintenance shed and retrieved equipment that wasn't listed on any golf course inventory. Inside a climate-controlled case that looked like standard irrigation equipment was a precision rifle system that Tom had hoped never to use in civilian life, but had maintained in perfect condition just in case. The weapon was civilian legal, but had been modified within legal parameters to provide the accuracy Tom's training demanded. Not military grade, but sufficient for the distances and precision requirements of golf course security applications. Tom's setup took less than 90 seconds, a process he'd rehearsed monthly but hoped never to use. The maintenance shed's elevated position provided perfect overwatch of the 18th green complex, with clear sight lines and stable shooting platform that would allow precision engagement at the distances involved. Through his scope, Tom could see the situation developing in real time. The shooter had moved closer to the spectator area and was making demands that Tom couldn't hear but could read through body language and crowd reaction. Approximately 30 people were in immediate danger, including several children and elderly spectators who were having difficulty moving to safety. Tom's radio crackled with panicked communications from club staff, but the nearest law enforcement was minimum 12 minutes away. Tom calculated that the situation would be resolved, one way or another, long before professional help arrived. At 11:58 a.m., the situation escalated when the shooter grabbed an elderly woman and began using her as a human shield, while moving toward what appeared to be his planned exit route. Tom could see through his scope that the hostage was Mrs. Eleanor Banks, a 78-year-old club member who suffered from heart problems and was showing signs of medical distress. Tom's sniper training had taught him that in hostage situations, the optimal engagement window was often brief and required split-second decision-making based on factors that couldn't be calculated in advance. The shooter's movement patterns, the hostage's position, wind conditions, and background considerations all had to be processed simultaneously. The shot Tom was being asked to make was 73 yards, well within his comfort zone from a technical standpoint, but complicated by the need to neutralize the threat without endangering the hostage or any of the spectators who were still in the area. Tom settled into the shooting position that had been earned through thousands of hours of training and dozens of real-world applications. His breathing controlled, his heartbeat steady, his mind calculating variables with the kind of precision that had once meant the difference between mission success and team casualties. The engagement opportunity lasted less than 3 seconds, the moment when the shooter separated enough from the hostage to provide a clear shot while maintaining sufficient angle to ensure background safety. Tom's shot was a precision engagement that neutralized the threat instantly while protecting the hostage and all other civilians in the area. The technique was textbook counter-sniper methodology, executed with the kind of professional competence that comes from training where mistakes have permanent consequences. The threat was eliminated, the hostage was safe, and the immediate danger to the golf course community was over. Millbrook County Sheriff's Department arrived at 12:09 p.m. to find a situation that had been resolved by precision shooting from an unidentified position. The threat had been neutralized, the hostage was safe, and the remaining spectators were being cared for by club staff who had responded with remarkable efficiency. "Control, this is Sheriff 1, came the radio transmission. "Golf course situation is contained. Suspect neutralized by unknown sniper. Need to identify the shooter who provided assistance." Tom had already begun securing his equipment when Sheriff Patricia Martinez approached the maintenance shed. Patricia had been responding to calls at Pebble Creek for 8 years and knew Tom as the reliable groundskeeper who somehow always seemed to know when problems were developing. "Tom," she said, looking at the rifle case he was placing in secure storage, "I need to understand what just happened here." Tom looked at this law enforcement professional who'd trusted him with information about security concerns for years and made a decision about revelation. Marine Corps sniper, 12 years, someone needed help. Patricia stared at the man who'd been maintaining the golf course since she'd been a deputy, understanding finally why his hands were always so steady, why he seemed to anticipate problems before they developed, and why the course had never had a serious security incident during his tenure. "How many confirmed saves?" Patricia asked, using terminology that indicated she understood Tom's background. 89 during deployment, Tom replied, plus one more today. Sometimes the mission doesn't end when you change jobs. Within hours, word of the golf course shooting had spread through Millbrook County. Tom Williams, the quiet groundskeeper who'd been part of the club's daily operations for 8 years, had revealed himself to be something none of the members had suspected, but it was the members' response response that surprised Tom most. Instead of fear or suspicion, they showed deeper respect for someone who'd been quietly protecting them while maintaining the course they loved. "Tom's been our guardian angel for 8 years," was how longtime member Robert Martinez described him to local news. "We just didn't know how literally he meant it when he said he was watching over the course." Club manager Patricia Rodriguez was more direct. "Tom saved lives today, but he's been protecting this community every day for 8 years. We're lucky to have him." 6 months after the championship incident, Tom returned to Pebble Creek with the same red maintenance truck, the same equipment, and the same commitment to maintaining championship-quality playing conditions. His routine was exactly the same. Arrive at 4:30 a.m., conduct security assessment, prepare the course for another day of golf. But everything else had changed. Members now understood that their groundskeeper was someone whose expertise had been earned through experiences most people couldn't imagine. The casual conversations continued, but with an undercurrent of respect for someone whose vigilance went far beyond turf management. "Tom," asked longtime member Dr. Sarah Chen during a quiet moment after his regular maintenance duties, "do you miss it, the military?" Tom looked across the 18th green where he'd once made a shot that saved lives, now peaceful again with golfers enjoying the game they loved. "I'm still serving, Dr. Chen, just in a different way. Every day people can play golf safely, every tournament that goes off without incident, every time families can gather here without worrying about things they shouldn't have to think about. That's mission accomplished." The golf course had become one of the safest venues in the county, not because of security systems or protocols, but because it was maintained by someone whose commitment to protecting others had been earned through 12 years of military service and was now applied to creating safe spaces for community recreation. Tom understood something that civilian life rarely teaches. Expertise doesn't lose its value when you apply it in unexpected places. The precision earned through 12 years of Marine Corps sniper training was no less important when applied to golf course maintenance. The vigilance learned through combat deployments was no less valuable when used to protect people enjoying recreational activities. 3 years later, Tom was still at Pebble Creek, still maintaining the course to championship standards, still providing security that most people never knew they needed. He'd become part of the club's legacy, a quiet professional whose presence made everyone safer, whether they understood it or not. Tom Williams' story was earned through 12 years as a Marine Corps sniper, where 89 confirmed overwatch saves taught him that vigilance and precision are more than skills. They're responsibilities that continue long after the uniform comes off. His greatest achievement wasn't neutralizing a threat in 3 seconds. It was 8 years of using skills earned through military service to protect a community that had become his mission. He never advertised his background because his work spoke for itself. Never sought recognition because he'd already earned the only reward that mattered, the knowledge that his presence made other people safer. So I ask you, what skills have you earned that could protect others in unexpected ways? What expertise could you apply to serve people who might never know they needed protection? Share your story in the comments. Tell us about someone whose earned vigilance made your life safer or better. Because here at Earned Stories, we believe that the most valuable protection often comes from ordinary places, provided by people whose extraordinary skills were earned through experiences most of us will never understand. Sometimes the greatest heroes are the ones who choose to use their earned expertise protecting others, one safe day at a time, one quiet moment of vigilance at a time. Thank you for watching. If this earned story moved you, subscribe to Earned Stories for more tales of earned service. And remember, every person serving others deserves respect, but some have earned their expertise through experiences that remind us why vigilance, precision, and dedication to protecting others are more than job requirements. They're expressions of character forged through service to something greater than ourselves.